You're not broken because you feel abandoned when you're alone. You're human. But here's what no one tells you. The fear of being alone isn't about solitude. It's about the stories you tell yourself when the noise stops and you're left with your own thoughts. If this feels like I'm reading your mind, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments, what's the hardest part about being alone for you? I read every single comment, and your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Let's talk about what's really happening here. When you're alone and that crushing feeling hits, that sense of abandonment, that emptiness, it's not because you're actually abandoned. It's because you've been running from yourself for so long that when you finally stop, you don't recognize who you're with. John Bowlby, the psychologist who studied attachment, discovered something profound. We don't just need others to feel secure. We need to feel secure with ourselves first. But somewhere along the way, you learned that being alone meant being unwanted, that solitude equaled rejection, that if you weren't surrounded by people, you weren't worthy of love. That's a lie. And it's a lie that's been fed to you by a culture that makes money from your loneliness, that profits from your insecurity, that tells you your worth is measured by how many people want to be around you. Here's the brutal truth. Most of the time, when you feel abandoned, you're the one who abandoned yourself first. You abandoned your needs to please others. You abandoned your boundaries to keep people close. You abandoned your dreams to fit into someone else's vision of who you should be. You abandoned your own company because you believed it wasn't enough, wasn't interesting, wasn't worthy of your own attention. But here's what happens when you stop running from solitude and start embracing it. You discover that you're not the enemy you thought you were. You're not the person who needs constant validation to exist. You're someone who has been so busy trying to be chosen by others that you forgot to choose yourself. You're someone who has been so afraid of your own thoughts that you've been drowning them out with other people's voices. The fear of abandonment isn't really about other people leaving. It's about the terror that if you're truly alone with yourself, you'll discover you're not worth staying for. But what if I told you that's exactly backwards? What if the reason you feel abandoned by others is because you've been abandoning yourself for years? What if every person who left was just reflecting back to you the relationship you already had with yourself? Think about it. How can you expect others to stay when you won't even sit with yourself for an hour without feeling like something is desperately wrong? How can you ask for loyalty from others when you're constantly betraying your own needs, your own values, your own truth? Carl Rogers, one of the greatest humanistic psychologists, said something that will change how you see this. The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change. When you stop fleeing from your own company, you start to understand something revolutionary. You are not your wounds. You are not your fears. You are not the collection of rejections that made you believe you need others to validate your existence. You are the sum of every moment you've survived, every challenge you've overcome, every time you've gotten back up when life knocked you down. You are the person who has been with you through every single moment of your life, the good, the bad, and everything in between. And yet, you treat yourself like a stranger you can't trust to be alone with. Being alone without feeling abandoned means learning to differentiate between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is the ache for connection you don't have. Solitude is the piece of connection you do have with yourself. Loneliness says, I am not enough. Solitude says, I am complete. When you feel that familiar panic rising, when the silence feels too heavy, when you start reaching for your phone or calling someone just to fill the void, pause. Ask yourself, what am I running from right now? Because I guarantee it's not the absence of other people. It's the presence of feelings you've been avoiding, thoughts you've been silencing, truths you've been denying. Maybe you're running from the disappointment of dreams that didn't come true. Maybe you're avoiding the grief of relationships that ended badly. Maybe you're hiding from the shame of mistakes you can't undo. But here's what you need to understand. Those feelings, those thoughts, those truths, they're not your enemies. They're parts of you that have been waiting patiently for you to acknowledge them, to sit with them, to integrate them into the full picture of who you are. The abandonment you fear already happened. It happened every time you said yes, when you meant no. It happened every time you dimmed your light to make others comfortable. It happened every time you chose their approval over your authenticity. It happened every time you ignored your intuition to avoid conflict. You've been living in a state of self-abandonment, and now you're terrified to be alone because you don't trust yourself to be good company. But here's what changes everything. You can stop abandoning yourself today, right now, in this moment. You can start treating yourself with the same compassion you give to others. You can begin to see solitude not as punishment, but as coming home to someone who has been waiting for you your entire life. You. This isn't about becoming a hermit or swearing off human connection. It's about learning to be whole on your own so that when you connect with others, it's from choice, not desperation. It's about building a relationship with yourself that's so solid, so secure, that being alone becomes a privilege, not a prison. It's about understanding that the right people will be drawn to your wholeness, not your neediness. The next time you're alone and that old familiar fear creeps in, try this. Look around your space and say, I am here with someone who has survived everything that brought me to this moment. I am here with someone who deserves compassion, respect, and love. I am here with someone worth knowing. Because you are. You always have been, you just forgot. Being alone isn't about being abandoned. It's about being chosen by the most important person in your life, you. You know what's beautiful about this journey? Every moment you spend learning to be comfortable with yourself, you're not just healing your relationship with solitude, you're healing every relationship you'll ever have. Because when you stop trying to fill the void with other people's presence, when you stop using relationships as escape routes from yourself, you start showing up as a whole person instead of half of one desperately seeking completion. The people who truly matter will notice this change. They'll be drawn to your centered energy, your self-assurance, your ability to be present without being needy. And the ones who leave, they were only there for the version of you that needed them to feel complete. Let them go. You're not that person anymore. Remember this. Your relationship with solitude is the foundation of every other relationship in your life. When you can sit with yourself in silence without feeling like something is missing, without reaching for distractions, without the desperate urge to fill the space with noise, that's when you'll know you've found home. And here's the secret they don't teach you about healing. It's not about never feeling lonely again. It's about recognizing loneliness as a temporary visitor, not a permanent resident. It's about knowing that you have the strength to sit with difficult feelings without running from them or drowning them out. So the next time someone asks you what you did this weekend and you say, nothing much, just stayed in, don't apologize for it. Don't diminish it. Don't make it sound like you were waiting for better plans to come along. Own it, because learning to be alone without feeling abandoned isn't nothing much. It's everything. It's the most radical act of self-love you can perform in a world that profits from your insecurity. You are not broken for needing time alone. You are not antisocial for choosing solitude over shallow connection. You are not missing out when you choose your own company over settling for less than you deserve. You are healing. You are growing. You are coming home to yourself one quiet moment at a time. This is how you be alone without feeling abandoned. You remember that you are not alone. You are with the most important person who will ever exist in your world. The person who has loved you through your worst mistakes, who has celebrated your smallest victories, who has never left your side even when everyone else did. That person is you. And they've been waiting for you to come home for a very long time. Welcome back.